Hello and welcome to a special holiday episode of the Giving Back to Gwinnett podcast. Presented by the Gwinnett Coalition and the Community Foundation for Northeast Georgia, Giving Back to Gwinnett showcases the nonprofits and people making an impact in Gwinnett. I'm Heather Loveridge, founder of Magnolia Media Group and chief storyteller for the Community Foundation, and I'm your host. Today's episode is a fun one as we're in the middle of the holiday season. We've spent the last 6 months highlighting various issues in our community and the nonprofits working to help solve those issues. So, for today, our last episode of 2021, we wanted to take you behind the scenes and talk to some of the givers, those helping make our nonprofits work possible, and share some stories of how lives are being changed through that giving. You're about to hear some inspiring stories from Good Samaritan Health Centers of Gwinnett, the Neighborhood Co-op, and Rainbow Village. Plus, joining each of these nonprofits is one of the fund holders from the Community Foundation. Because, if you didn't know, the Community Foundation connects people who care, their fund holders, to the causes they care about. Giving through the Community Foundation allows fund holders to make an even greater impact on our communities. So first up today, we are going to chat with Neighborhood Cooperative Ministries. And joining us today, we have Ryan Jones, Director of Community Development, as well as Kathy and Elise Lowe, who are fund holders and co-op supporters. If you haven't heard of the Neighborhood Co-op, they serve the needs of at-risk Gwinnett County residents from Doraville, Norcross, Peachtree Corners, and Tucker, as well as Greater Gwinnett. So I'm going to toss it over to Ryan first, because we really just want to share the stories and the impact that's being made through givers, like I mentioned. So Ryan, share a story about an individual or a family, someone whose lives were significantly impacted for the better because of the services you've been able to provide.
Absolutely. Stories are, from a nonprofit employee, stories are our favorite things to do, and they're always the easiest things to do. So just to tell you a little bit about the co-op, we serve kind of that basic need. So we serve in an area of significant poverty in southwest Gwinnett County, and we're helping folks with things like food, shelter, clothes, the basic necessities. So my mind immediately went for an example for a lady named Ms. Kyra. Last year, we started a program called Save a Family. So with Save a Family, we're going a little bit deeper with clients, so we are providing that support for just a little bit longer while we are introducing them to things like financial support, job counseling, how to do a resume, things that will transform their lives in other ways. So Ms. Kyra came to us. She had a 9-year-old son, a 5-month-old daughter,
Wow.
And the 5-year-old daughter had some significant medical issues, about every issue you can think of under the sun. She was born 2 months early, and she had several conditions. And so we helped Kyra kind of in similar ways that we normally do with rent, with financial, with helping with some medical referrals, things like Good Sam that you'll hear about later do. But what stuck out to me is when she was expressing her gratitude for what we did, one of the things that she said during intake was that she had family members that supported her, which is relatively uncommon with families, with individuals and families that we see. But she didn't feel like they understood her and understood what she was going through. So she was grateful for us. She got emotional when she was talking about it, and maybe it connected with me because I have 2 boys. Both of them were born premature, and it's just a personal heart thing for me. But she was grateful for the physical things that we provided, but she was more physical for the emotional support, for us just listening to her, providing that emotional support, and just simply being a friend to her in her time of need. And I think as a nonprofit, and we'll hear from more today, but it's often really easy to get caught up in the bigness and the burden of trying to solve big issues. But often what we can do that's the most important thing are just those one-on-one relationships, those simple acts of love and kindness that we're sharing with one person. And that's what's amazing to me. So one quote that I've shared before and I like to share is, and I'll probably butcher it, but in the end, a good society is not made up of bold decisions and grand designs, but millions of simple acts of kindness shared over and over. And to me, that was a great reminder. It's the Christmas season, and it was just a reminder to me that what can I do every day to do those simple acts of kindness. And that's what Miss Kyra kind of imparted on me.
Yeah. I love that you bring up just how the love and kindness that you can show to someone makes a difference. And so I think sometimes we tend to think about, oh, let's just, give someone a food box or let's provide them clothes. And you forget that relationship. People, what's the other saying? People don't care what you know until they know how much you care. I probably butchered that one myself, but I just think that's a great example of that as well. And so, we also have Kathy and Elise here with us who are, have made giving for you guys a family affair. So talk to us a little bit about, why you've gotten involved with the co-op and some of your other giving ventures, and why that's important to you guys. And I'll go to Kathy. I'll go to you first.
Well, I became involved with the Community Foundation quite by accident. Norcross High School asked me to write grants for their After School Matters program, which I volunteered to do. And to learn how to write grants, I went to Randy's workshops. So I would sit next to all these nonprofits that are doing wonderful things, and I would come home and tell my husband about it and say to him, I want to send them some money. So I became very educated in what Gwinnett County was doing, and then my husband would sign all these checks and said, well, why don't we just open up a community fund with Randy? And I said, great idea. So here I am. So my passion is food insufficiency because of what I see on a day-to-day basis at Norcross High School. And I have sucked my daughter into it because she sees it every single day of her life at school.
Well, at least talk to us a little bit about that, and also share, because you started a food drive and have gotten involved in other ways, so just kind of share why that's important to you as well.
So I go to Norcross High School, as she mentioned, and we're a Title I school, so 2/3 of the kids are on free and reduced lunch, and the school has around 3,000 students, a little bit more, so that's around 2,000 kids. And during the pandemic, they did as much as they could to get lunch out to the kids who wouldn't be able to afford it at home. But of course, the school can only do so much, and they did make a great impact, but we can still always be doing more. So my mom suggested that I, post on Nextdoor, hey, I'll go around if you leave cans out and I'll collect them and then I'll take them to the food drive. And it had a great turnout, and I was able to get food to the food drive and, feed the kids that I learn with and that I play with every single day.
Mm-hmm. Well, and what, I guess, share too, Elise, the impact that you've seen your family's focus on giving make in your own life.
I mean, in my family, it's like giving isn't an option, it's a requirement. And it's something we eat dinner as a family every night, and we talk about the issues in our world every night. We are not a family to sugarcoat anything, and that's partially because I'm the youngest child and my siblings are way older than I am. So I was never really babied per se. I knew what was going on from the start. So it's just very innate in my family, and they've taught me that, if giving is easy, then you're not doing it correctly. Giving shouldn't be convenient, and we should be giving when it's inconvenient. Because if it's inconvenient for people who are financially blessed like us, then it could be deadly for people who aren't.
I love that. Well, and what, tell me, two of you, Elise and Kathy, talk to us a little bit about, being able to give to co-ops like the neighborhood co-op and get involved in different ways. What are the impacts that you guys have seen?
I don't necessarily see what you see on a day-to-day level. I just know my dad was a letter carrier, and he was often audited by the IRS because he gave too much money away. And my husband's dad was a Presbyterian minister. So we don't even think about it. We just do it, and hopefully have an impact. And if everyone just gave a little bit, it would make a world of difference.
Make a big difference.
Can I tell you what I see?
Yes.
I see a young person that no matter what else happens for me today, I see a young person that has changed me today. And I'm going to go back to work and I'm going to be fired up about what I'm doing just listening to that 2 minutes of conversation. So, Elise, thank you.
I love that. Well, expound on that for just a second, Ryan. What did that mean to you as you heard what Elise was saying?
I think anybody can relate to that. When you see a young person at that age, I don't know how old you are, but at that age, at the high school level, you're already caring so much, and it's I have little kids too. So for me, I'm always looking for ways to, how I got involved in service was trying to figure out how I can be a good example for my son. And that's really it. That's why I do the job I do today. And anytime I see young people like that already have that in their heart, you have done a great job, and it inspires me to do better.
I love that. And Elise, are you 16?
I'm 17.
17? Okay. I was off by just a little bit. So as we wrap up talking to you guys and then move on to some of our other great nonprofits and givers, what advice do y'all have for other families who are, want to become more giving-minded like you guys are?
I think you have to talk about it. The one thing I love about getting involved with Norcross High School is it's come full circle, because whenever band has a concert, we do a canned food drive in conjunction with it. We had not done that before. When people order fruit for a fruit fundraiser and they don't want the fruit, they say, we'll buy it and donate it to the co-op. So it's expanded the kids' minds on how they could push this generosity forward. And it's pretty painless and it's pretty simple.
I love that.
I think it's really just as simple as looking around you and stepping out of your comfort zone. And I've done a little bit of volunteer work as well with Corners Outreach, which the owner of Corners Outreach, his name is Larry Campbell, and I know his daughter because I go to school with her. And we have these people in our community that are already doing such a great job of giving. So to get involved, you just have to reach out and say, how can I help? And I volunteered with them, and I taught ESOL kids, and I don't speak a lick of Spanish. I take French. So that was definitely outside of my comfort zone, but I was really happy to work with them, and math is the same in every language. So
that is true. It is universal. Well, I love that. It sounds like what I'm hearing is, a willing heart, just in finding a spot to plug in, because there's plenty of places I'm sure Ryan would say in all of our nonprofits in here, there's always a place to plug in and get involved. Well, awesome. Well, thank you guys. I really appreciate that. So next up, we're going to be chatting with Good Samaritan. And we have Greg Lang, who's Executive Director of Good Samaritan Health Centers of Gwinnett, here in studio with us. And we're going to be talking to him and Ken Mazzaroni, who's also a Community Foundation fund holder, a Good Samaritan supporter, and incoming board chair. And for those of you who don't know, Good Samaritan Health Clinics demonstrate the love of Christ by providing quality and affordable primary health care and dental services at their 2 locations in Norcross. So, Greg, let's talk about how have you seen Good Sam make a difference in people's lives, in our community?
First, let me say Merry Christmas.
Merry
Good
Christmas
to see you.
To you. Thank you.
If I may, I'll start with numbers.
Oh, yeah.
I've been with the organization 10 years. 10 years ago, we had 4.5 employees. Today, we have 58. 10 years ago, we accepted only 500 new patients a year. Today, we take more than 3,000. And 10 years ago, we did not offer dentistry. And this year, we will finish a little more than 7,000 dental appointments. So we've been blessed in such a way that we've been able to grow and add services and take care of the community's increasing needs, especially dentistry. We're the largest charitable dental provider in the county. We have 12 dental chairs and 3 dentists, and we've been able to do that because of the generosity of our supporters that helped us buy buildings and buy equipment and hire staff so that we could see more and more people. We think we're going to serve more than 31,000 people this year.
Wow.
So it's been, remarkable. I've been in healthcare now almost 40 years, 10 years of it in the nonprofit sector. And I've just seen a lot of transformation in Gwinnett County, where we went from a few people needing us to hundreds of people a day that need us. As the county has grown, and especially the immigrant population has increased, we're serving more and more people that are receiving health care, often for the first time in their lives. We have women in their 40s getting their first physical, their first mammogram. We have young adults, 20, 22 years old, getting their teeth cleaned for the first time in their life. So it's been remarkable to me to be a part of creating something that's been serving unmet needs that should have been attended to many years ago. So we do a lot of catch-up work, but nevertheless, we get to do the work for them.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I think that will impact people when they hear those numbers and realize that what some of us take for granted is almost a luxury to others.
Yeah.
And
other than numbers, there's also the great stories. I mean, every day we diagnose hypertension or diabetes in someone who had no idea they were suffering with those diseases, and we catch it early enough that we can help them avoid, a decrease in their health. We have people that tell us that they're smiling for the first time in years. We do a lot of smile restoration, and we've gotten thank you letters from people that said that they are no longer ashamed and they're willing to go out into the workplace and talk to customers or even smile in photographs, and that's remarkable. But one of the most profound things that we do, you shared it in your introduction, is that we're a gospel-centered ministry, and we attempt to share the word and teach people about the love of Christ. And something like that objective is often hard to quantify and define in a business world. But the story that tells me we succeed in that is that about a year ago, we were helping a man that was in end-stage cancer. He had already been sent home to die. He was in pain. And we helped him get out of pain and took care of some basic needs for him. And he had a sense that his days were numbered. He asked his family to bring him in so that we could pray over him before he died.
Wow.
And we did that in the clinic with several of the staff standing around him and prayed for him. And he did die that night. And his family, told us how much comfort he received from that moment, knowing that we were genuinely caring about him, not only physically but spiritually. And that's one of my favorite stories about what we do. Is you don't see that very often in a scientific institution like medicine, but we get to do it.
Yeah, care for the heart, not just the body and the soul.
Absolutely.
Wow. Well. And thank you for sharing that, Greg. And then talk a little bit to, people who give, whether it's their time or their money to Good Sam. What difference have you seen that make?
Well, our growth has been fueled by the generosity of the community. I mean, healthcare is a very expensive profession. We cannot just take any willing volunteer because it's a skill set that most people don't have. So in order to serve the needs in the community, we have no choice but to hire people. Our payroll is very expensive, but without the donors coming alongside us and understanding that, even though I'm helping you pay payroll, it's impactful because one person can take care of 20 to 25 people a day and save a life potentially. So having donors come alongside us and be confident in us and being willing to continue to give to us is inspiring, especially when it looks like we're hungry all the time. We never reach a place where we don't need more funds, and that's not because we're wasteful, but it's because we grow every year, and not only in our physical size and the number of staff that we hire, but the number of people that we treat. And we reached a high of 35,000 people before the pandemic, and we had a small slump, but we're climbing out of that, and we think that next year will be our busiest year yet. And it's our donors willing to help feed us financially so that we could accommodate that growth. It is really an awesome thing to witness.
I love that. Well, and speaking of donors, so Ken is sitting here with us too, and so Ken, just share why you got involved with Good Sam to begin with.
Well, like so many of these stories, they all start with a conversation with Randy Redner at some point in time. So my wife and I had been in an extended exile to the frosted north in Minnesota, and we were returning to the greater Atlanta area and Gwinnett in particular. And I was kind of transitioning out of my professional career and into what was going to come next. And we'd already established a fund at the Community Foundation, and so I started having some conversations with Randy about what could I do, where could I make a difference? And he introduced me to the 4 basic areas that they were looking at closely at that time. So there was, in addition to healthcare, there was food insecurity, there's homelessness, and there's early childhood learning. And so I started doing some research in all those areas along with my wife, and we visited a bunch of different places and different nonprofits and the work that they were doing, and really focused on healthcare as being the one that we thought made the most sense because it seemed to be a necessary first step for any individual. If you're not healthy, you can't go to work, you can't provide food for your family, you can't provide food for yourself or housing. And once you're homeless, you have no place to send your children to school. So to us, it just seemed like a logical place to start. And then we went down the path of talking to a lot of different of the healthcare nonprofits. And then we met Greg, and I had several conversations with Greg and with the board chair at that time, a fellow by the name of Sam Kaywood. And it was just amazing the amount of work that they'd done and the blessings that they had brought on the organization through prayerfulness and being very faithful in every sense of the word to what the mission was. And particularly when you understand the model that's behind Good Samaritan, as Greg alluded to already, we're a Christian-based organization, so we're as, or if not more, concerned about the spiritual side as we are the healthcare side. And so that was extremely attractive to us. And then on top of it, you take a look at the business model from the standpoint of, Greg alluded to it again a moment ago, we do need donors to come alongside, but we expect our patients to have some financial skin in the game as well. And we think anecdotally that drives better health outcomes as well, because if I'm paying for something as opposed to just getting it for free, I'm going to value it a little bit higher than, getting a free whatever. So, Greg's talked about the fact we're over 32,000 this year, and after a small drop-off next year with both of our facilities open and running full steam, I'm confident we'll get well over the number that was our high water mark from 2 years ago, and that's just doing great work every day.
Well, and Ken, talk a little bit about the power of giving and what you've experienced through Good Sam and through yours and Lori's lives as well.
Giving is transformative in every sense of the word. Obviously, for the recipient organization and the individuals that organization serves, it's transformative in the sense of healthcare, turning people from being ill and unable to support themselves to giving them the physical attributes and soundness that they can go out and confidently take on the world. But it's transformative for the individual who does the giving as well, because you hear a lot about time, talent, treasure. I mean, those are real easy words to throw off quickly, but the more you get into it, the more it transforms your understanding what that is, and it drives you, and we heard from the last folks from Neighborhood Cooperative, that it transforms the way you look at the world and the way you want to participate in the world and how you want to make a mark and help others, because you've been hugely blessed with whatever you have along the way as well. So it's a deep good for both the giver and the givee.
Yeah, that impacts. Do you have, and I'm kind of throwing you a curveball, do you have a story or way that you've seen Good Sam make an impact that's really resonated with you?
Well, like I said, I know one story in particular. I've heard some of the stories that Greg's talked about already, and again, because of the faith focus, it makes a huge difference. I mean, all sorts of organizations are doing tremendous work, and I have great respect and admiration for all the people in the nonprofit community, in folks in the room and folks who do all these other things. The ability to focus on faith the way we do in the medical field is, I dare say, almost unique. And I think it drives better outcomes.
Greg?
Yeah, thanks for letting me jump in. One of the things that we don't publicize necessarily is that we train rising medical professionals. We take graduate students from a number of universities and provide them with their clinical rotation so that they can become licensed. And we include them in our gospel outreach when they're willing to participate in it. And we've heard a number of times from these students that are about to become nurse practitioners or physician assistants that this is the first setting where they've ever been given permission to pray for somebody, that they didn't realize that a medical professional could legally do that even. So that's one of our unspoken missions, is to really raise up future not only medical providers, but disciples to spread the word. And our donors probably aren't aware that they help make that happen, but they do make that happen for us, because we can spend time really training somebody, and that's not a reimbursable time. We're just investing in someone, and we can do that because our donors are very generous with us and allow us to pursue the mission both with the patient and with the future healthcare provider.
I love that. Making an impact on many, many levels. I love that. Well, Ken and Greg, thank you so much for coming and sharing the power of giving and how you've seen that through, Ken through your own life, and then Greg through the donors like Ken who are giving to Good Sam. So thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we're going to chat with Rainbow Village. We've got Justice French, who's the development director for Rainbow Village. And we also have Dan Miller in studio with us, who's one of the Community Foundation's fund holders and a Rainbow Village supporter. And so if you haven't heard of Rainbow Village, they exist to transform the lives of families experiencing homelessness by providing help, hope, housing, and healing. And we've heard some really neat stories today that have already made an impact. Dan's is even a bit more unique, so we kind of want to start there. So Dan, share with our listeners about your journey, the journey you literally went on, and why you chose to support Rainbow Village through that.
Well, the journey that Heather's referring to is I made a little bicycle trip. This summer. I went from Seattle to Bar Harbor, Maine. A little over 4,000 miles, and I never had so much fun in my life. It was difficult, but every day was just a joy. And the support of Rainbow Village isn't new. It was just a different opportunity. We don't have the deepest pockets, and I was inspired by their long-term success in the community. We worked with Rainbow Village probably pretty close to 30 years ago when my wife and I first moved to Gwinnett County, refurbishing one of the homes off of Old Norcross Road when they only had 2 homes. And we did some painting and removing of wallpaper and just getting a house ready for a family. So we've been aware of the organization for a long time. And the bike ride was something I wanted to do, but we're also part of a church community where our mission statement is connecting everyday life and faith. And so this was my everyday life. This was what I was going to do for the next 2 months, but I wanted to connect it to something bigger than the bike ride. I was floored, stunned, how much bigger it got. When Justice and I first met, I think we both walked away going, well, this is a cute story. It might be kind of fun, and we'll get a little bit of press and maybe a couple $1,000s.
Well, and that's exactly right. And when Dan and I first sat down at Maple Street Biscuit and talked about this absurd idea to bike across the entire country that I was so excited for Dan to do, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, man, if we can raise $5,000, this would be a huge success, right? To create the awareness, right? It's not only driving resources for Rainbow Village to support what we do, but creating the awareness about how we do it in a unique way. And so, in my mind, I was thinking, man, $5,000 would be incredible. Dan, what is that number at today?
34,000, I think.
That's right.
The last time I looked.
Incredible.
And it was, for me, and Ken alluded to this, giving connects on so many different levels. But I was a teacher also. I've worn several different hats. I was an engineer for 28 years and then taught high school for 12. And I was very education focused. And so the students would recognize anytime I wasn't teaching their content, they would look and go, okay, this must be important because he doesn't pause for anything. And we would pause for a day and talk about giving within the high school community. So when the donation site went up and former students found the site through some YouTube videos, and they told other students, and there were donations coming from students, that future connectedness just warmed my heart.
Wow. What a cool circle coming back to.
Was for me.
Yeah. I love that.
And even beyond the students in the local community, right, it almost makes me think of Forrest Gump a little bit, right, when he goes for his long run across the country and people start joining in, right? They want to be a part of the magic. And we started to see donations come in. Dan, I don't know what state you were in at the time, but I think you were at an IHOP perhaps, and you had a conversation with someone, and they saw your shirt with Rainbow Village on it, and they were so moved and inspired by Dan that they looked up Rainbow Village and made a $100 donation, and they're across the country.
Wow.
Right? And Rainbow Village is here in Duluth, Georgia. And so to see the impact that it had, not only here in the community, but across the country, people who now know who Rainbow Village is and what we do, is just incredible. And all that over a few pancakes and an IHOP is amazing.
Never discount the power of food. Well, Justice, along those lines, great story already about, an individual making impact. But let's drill that down to, people give to Rainbow Village, people like Dan and, the person across the country who gave, and share a story about a family's life that has been changed or an individual's because of Rainbow Village.
Sure. Well, one of my favorite stories is that of Spring, who graduated from Rainbow Village over a year ago now. But really, we have two types of families who come to Rainbow Village: those experiencing situational poverty and homelessness, and those who are experiencing generational poverty and homelessness. So Spring's story is that of the situational type, and Spring was a 17-year veteran in the banking business with a 2-year-old son at the time, and her relationship became very abusive to the point that it sent her to the hospital, and that was the turning point. She realized, unfortunately, like so many women in that situation, that she had to get out, and it turned very violent before she realized she had to not only save her life but her son's, Leo. And they ended up at Rainbow Village, and through 2 years of the Rainbow Village program, Spring was able to save up enough money where she was actually able to purchase a home in Monroe. And it was just one of the most, we talk about the filling of the tank a lot, right? When we serve our families and to see their success, and success for all of our families looks different. It's not purchasing a home for all of them, right? It's sometimes it's their mental health, it's building of the finances, yes, but it runs deeper than that, as we all know. And to see Spring move into her home, to see the staff of Rainbow Village show up on moving day, and to have a ribbon cutting ceremony, and to move the furniture into her home after what she had gone through, filled up my tank. And I want people to know, those people who are supporting Rainbow Village, like Dan, make Spring's story possible. And now her and Leo are living in their home, and they sleep safe at night, and they're secure, and they're self-sufficient now because Rainbow Village was a part of their story.
I love that. The power of giving is told through one person's life, or two people in the case of her and her son. So, as we wrap up, Dan, just share briefly how being able to give has changed your life, and then why should others make giving a priority?
Giving is a lifelong thing, and I think it all kind of stems back to that we have an innate desire to make the world around us a little bit better. And when we're young, that little bit it's a little bit. Our circle of influence is just not that big. And as we grow through our life, we try to make our families' lives a little bit better. But if that is your habit throughout life, it grows. You find organizations; those organizations find you. Your path gets moved. You run into Randy, and your life will change. But you're just looking to make that kind of next step to make the world around you just a little bit better. And the other thing that giving does, at some point you will make a gift that is a leap, where you can't predict. It's like, is this the right thing? Is this, can we actually do this? And the answer is you don't know, and you leap. And in the leap, there's a transformative process that Ken alluded to. You can't describe it. A butterfly can't go back and explain to the caterpillar what it's like before you become the butterfly, and you can't really explain what it is before you leap. But some point and some time in your life, you will leap, and the world will be better, and you will be changed for the better.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you all for a very inspiring conversation on the power of giving and how it makes a difference in, in the giver's life as well as the people on the other end receiving that, and for all the nonprofits and all the people doing the work in between. So thank you, all of you, and for everyone listening in today. Thank you for listening. I hope this has been an encouraging and inspiring episode for you as well. And if you would like to learn more about the Gwinnett Coalition or the Community Foundation, please visit them at gwinnettcoalition.org or cfneg.org. And if you want to know more about any of the nonprofits featured today, you can also visit their websites. We have the Neighborhood Co-op, which is rncm.org. Good Sam is, what's the website?
GoodSamGwinnett.org.
Awesome. Rainbow Village.
.org.
Gosh, awesome. Well, I'm your host, Heather Loveridge. Thanks again for joining us today, and we wish you the happiest of holidays. Now, go make a difference in your community this season.